Gentleman from Texas, Mr. Casar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the 35th District of Texas, we stretch from East Austin down to the west side of San Antonio. The number one industry that employs folks in my district is service and hospitality. My constituents are overwhelmingly cooks, servers, hotel workers, barbacks, the folks that oftentimes lost their jobs during the pandemic. And so to be really clear, there's nobody that'd be more upset about fraud and abuse of unemployment insurance and fraud and abuse of critical programs that were to keep their lives running and to keep them alive than the working class folks in my district. And that's why I'm so appreciative that the Biden administration has put forward such significant funds to looking out for fraud, especially from large criminal organizations and oftentimes wealthy individuals that were trying to game the system. Right. So, Mr. Turner, how would President Biden's allocation of tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to prosecuting systemic pandemic fraud address your findings on fraud in DOL pandemic assistance programs?
Thanks for asking that question. Currently, the money that we have for ARPA expires the end of this year, end of this fiscal year. And in the first or second quarter, the rest of the CARES Act fund will expire. So if we are able to expect to sustain the level that we're currently operating under, we will need funds right away. And so that $100 million that the president is proposing would really help us do that. One of the caveats that I would say is that we need it right away, because without that, we're going to lose, through attrition, about 30 employees this year and another 20 next year. So I just wanted to point that out, but it would really be very helpful for us to be able to go after some of those fraudsters that we've been talking about.
And you expect that the investments we make in pursuing that kind of fraud, we're going to get more than that amount of money back?
Well, let me just say, I can't say that. Because
that's your hope.
Once fraud goes out of the door, it's hard to get it back. What we can do is go after the fraudsters that committed these atrocities. So that's what I would tell you. But it is quite hard and very complicated in getting funds back. We've identified about $905 million that we, through our work, that we've been able to get back. And that's not all in funds. That's just through the process of the judicial system, civil cases that we were able to get. And it takes a while for it to go through the judicial system, where it may be 4 or 5 years before we actually see some of that.
I appreciate that. And either for you, Mr. Turner, or whoever else here is appropriate, I also just saw that in the budget that was released today, that there were continued significant investments in making sure that we recover funds and make investments in holding people accountable that are committing this kind of fraud. Is there any further information that we need from Mr. Shoemaker?
Sure. The president did put forward a request for $100 million. I can assure this subcommittee that you will receive return on investment from our office on that $100 million. Our current base budget was $24 million. We've returned $9.2 billion in dollar accomplishments in just 3 years alone, which represents an exponential return on investment. The president put forward a budget for our office in fiscal year 24 of $63 million. Those funds, as Mr. Turner said, are critical to our office. If we do not receive those funds, we will be in the same situation as Mr. Turner, where we will have to, consider the attrition rate next year in fiscal year 24. So it's critical that we have our base budget of fiscal year 24, as well as the supplemental funds that were asked for last Thursday.
Thank you, Mr. Shoemaker. This is, I think, you proved to us how that kind of investment can make a really big difference. I think it's a core function of what we should be doing as oversight. Mr. Sessions likely recalls that there once was a legendary chairman of this committee, Jack Brooks from Beaumont, who, whether administrations were Republican or Democratic, made sure that we were going after fraudsters in this way. So I hope that's a portion of the president's budget that we can have some bipartisan support for to continue that kind of work. Thank you. I yield back my time.
Gentleman yields back his time. Thank you very much. The distinguished young gentleman